Hey guys, it's Yvette, and here I am with week 2 of the Fort Worth Fabric Studios Absolute Autumn Quilt blocks. And the blocks that we are going to be doing this week are the acorn blocks. Now, when you open up your package with all of the fabrics that you've cut, you'll be thinking, oh my gosh, I got so much. And yes, you do, but that's because you have two different kinds of acorn blocks. We have dotty acorns and then we have patchwork acorns. So these fabrics that I have pulled out right here are the ones that we need to make the dotty acorns. Okay, so what you're going to need is 8 of the 5" by 1.5" rectangles, 8 of the 7.5" by 1.5" rectangles, 8 of the 5.5" by 1.5" rectangles. You need 8 of the 2" by 2" squares, and you need 16 of the 1.5" squares. Okay, and that's all of the A fabric that you've cut. Now, out of the F fabric, which we have right here, we need 4 of the 8.5" by 2.5" rectangles, and you need 4 of the 1.5" squares. Next, we need our M fabric, and of the M fabric, you're going to need all 8 of the 10.5" by 1.5" rectangles. And finally, of the N fabric, you'll need 4, which is all of them, 4 6.5" by 5.5" rectangles. Okay, all of the other fabric I have already put aside to do the patchwork acorns after we finish these. And we are going to make 4 of the dotty acorns and 4 of the patchwork acorns. So let's make the dotty acorns first. All right, I'm going to scooch my fabric over so that I can get started putting things together. And let's see, let's kind of do this. Boop. Okay, so on number 1, we are going to take all 16 of the 1.5" squares of the A fabric, and we're going to take the 4F 8.5" by 2.5" rectangles. Okay, so we've got these. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a line diagonally on the back of all of these 1.5" squares. So we'll flip these over, and then it really doesn't matter which corner, but you're going to go from corner to corner and draw a line straight across. Okay, so let's just do that first. Oh, here we go. Just trying to find my smaller ruler. And here we go. Now, there are a few ways that you can use your ruler to do this. So I'll kind of, I figured before I get started, let me show you little things you can do. If you notice on your ruler, you have these 45-degree lines, and those lines are really good for putting up against one of the sides of your square to be able to point out the top of that and then diagonally down to the bottom right. So top left to bottom right. If I take this line right here, this 45-degree line, I'm using the black one because it'll be easier to stand out on the white fabric or cream fabric. I'm going to put it right along the left side of the square. And the very top of that line should be also at the very top of the left side of my square. And when I have that line right at the top, and then I put this line straight against the edge, then I know that wherever this ends up, that's my bottom right. Now let me get that lined up. And there we have it right there. Okay. So you can see if I draw from there to there, you're going from point to point, and you've used your 45-degree line to get there. Now personally, I don't sit here and line it all up. I just kind of eyeball it, but this is a good way for you to see one of the great things about the rulers that you'll have, at least these Creative Grids rulers. I know those are my favorite, and they have lots of different things you can use on them. So that's just good to know. Okay, so I have finished drawing the lines diagonally across each one, and now we are going to go on to the next piece. So we're going to obviously take that off. And then, okay, so we're going to take, let's just demonstrate on one. We're going to take one of these, and we are going to, now we're making the acorn top. So what you're wanting to do is you want to make sure they're kind of going diagonally like so. Now you see how they overlap? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take one square and sew it to the top left with the diagonal going this way. And then we're going to take one for the other side, and we're going to sew across going diagonally this way. We're going to come back. We're going to trim off everything to the top right and top left. We're going to press that over, and then we are going to attach the third one. If I could talk, we're going to attach the third one here, and we're going to attach the fourth one there. But now the thing is that you want to make sure that you attach these two first, do your trimming and your pressing, and then these are going to get attached on top of the pressed piece, and that's going to make like a little flying geese in the corner. And it'll also, what it does is it makes your little 1/4 inch seam allowance, so to speak, on each of the acorn tops. So let's go and attach these and come back to finish and attach the second ones. Okay, so I have finished sewing those top pieces on. Actually, I had kind of intended them to be the top. And so now we're just going to trim off first. So let's do that. I'm going to take the 1/4 inch line that runs all the way down my ruler, and I'm going to put that line on the line that we just stitched. And then that will give me the 1/4 inch seam allowance that I need, and I'll trim off the rest of it. Okay, so now I am going to press those seams. And what I'll do first is I will just do a quick press to set those seams. And what that means is when we are, any kind of stitching we are doing is poking a whole bunch of little holes in our fabric. So setting the seam like this just closes up all those holes to make a better a better seam, a stronger seam, I should say. Okay. So now I always just kind of give it a little fold over with my hand to make sure it's going where I want it to go. And it is gonna, I mean, it's a very tiny little fold, so it's not gonna like lay super, super flat, like right at the get-go like that. Oh, look, that one did. What the heck? I'll show you what I do for seams like that. So what I will do, I will turn them over so that I'm looking at the back of it. And I will take some very light spray starch. I use Mary Ellen's Best Press. And I put like just the tiniest little spritz, guys. The tiniest little spritz. And then I just set it on there for just a bit. And see, it lays it right flat. And you're just holding it down. And then when you flip that over, you can see it's laying a lot flatter than it was. Okay. Okay, so here are the first 4 pieces that are done. And now we're going to go back to the sewing machine and we're going to sew on the last 2 pieces on each one with the seams going right like that. And as soon as we sew those down, we'll come back and we'll trim off everything to the bottom right and bottom left and press it, and then we'll be ready for step 2. Okay, so I have my little acorn tops. I'm gonna put them to the side for a bit, and I am going to pull out the 8 2-inch squares from the A fabric, and I'm also going to pull the 4 in rectangles. Goodness. Okay, so then I am going to, let's see, they want the 5.5 inches to be on these sides and the 6.5 on top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. So I have this in the correct direction. So you just want to double check that. And let's see, it says that we are going to draw lines corner to corner on the wrong side of all the A squares. So these guys. All right. So let me scooch that up for a bit. And so we're going to flip these over and we're going to draw our lines on the back side of these A squares, just like we did on the ones for the acorn tops. Okay, so I have these done, and now we are going to sew the A squares to the bottom corners of the end rectangles. Okay, so we're going to take each one of these and we're going to sew one of the squares here and another here. And you want to make sure that your seam lines are going exactly like this, because we're going to be making, this is going to be our acorn body, and this is going to be the bottom corner. So we want it to finish like this. Okay, so we'll go and sew those and come back and go on to our step 3. Okay, so we have our dotty acorns started here, and the next thing that we're going to do is use 8 of the 5.5 inch by 1.5 inch rectangles. And let's see, 5.5, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 5, this must be these. Okay, so these are the 5.5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. Okay, so these are the 5.5 inch. We are going to stitch one of them to each side of the acorns. So I'm going to take one and I will put one on either side. And what we're going to do is turn them both right sides together. And we're going to stitch 1/4 inch seam line down each side. Okay, so I have sewn the two sides on, and now we're going to take the acorn tops and we're going to sew them on top of the acorn. So just to show you on one what we are doing, we will take them like this, turn them right sides together, and then we are going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam allowance right here on all 4 of those. Okay, so we are continuing on with our acorn, and according to the figure, which I'm just going by the figures until I get here because it's very self-explanatory, we are going to take these last rectangles that we have, and let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7.5 inch, and we're going to put one on either side of each acorn. So we're just going to turn both sides, right sides together as such, and we are going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides here. Okay, so we have our acorns with the 2 extra sides, and now the next step is going to be making the little stem. So let's scooch these over for a bit, and we're going to make 4 of them. So we'll have the last 4 of these 1.5 inch squares, 1.5 inch squares. I said that like a question. It's not a question. That's really what we're doing. And then we're going to take, these are the 5 inch by 1.5 inch rectangles. And we're going to put one on either side. Okay. And then we're going to put them together like we do any other blocks. I usually move or flip the center over first, so I will just turn these right sides together. I got big old fingers here. And we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance down each one of those. Okay, so we finished the stem here, and now we're going to attach each one of those to one of the acorns. And we are going to take each one and fold it right sides together, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam line here. Okay, so we have finished our dotty acorns. Here they are, and I'm going to set these aside and we will start on the patchwork acorns. Okay, so let's get our fabric out. We'll take our A fabric, and we have 8 5.5 inch by 2.5 inch rectangles, and that's those. We have 8 2.5 inch by 1.5 inch rectangles, that's those guys. We have 4 10.5 inch by 1.5 inch, and we have 1 5.5 inch square, and then we have 16 1.5 inch squares. So those are all of our A fabrics. Okay, now we're going to need our E fabrics, which are these guys. We are going to have 8, hold on, let me pull these out. 8 of the 2.5 inch by 2 inch rectangles, and 8 of the 3.5 inch by 2 inch rectangles. Okay, so I'm just going to keep those together for now so I don't forget what is E. And then we also have some F fabric. And I put the 2 F's because I ran out of the alphabetes with the 1. So it's the same thing. It's F. Then we have 4 2.5 inch by 8.5 inch rectangles. That's these. And we have 4 1.5 inch squares. Yep, we do. Okay. So I'm going to put those aside. There we go. And then we are going to have, let me scooch over a little bit because I'm not sure what's showing in the camera. That way you can see everything. And our H fabric. And with the H fabric, we have 1 5.5 inch square, and then 8 2 inch squares. We have the I fabric. And the I fabric, we have 4 3.5 by 2.5 inch rectangles. And then with our M fabric, finally, we have 4 of these 10.5 by 1.5 inch rectangles, and then 8 of the 5 inch by 1.5 inch rectangles. Oops, I've got cat hair everywhere, as usual. Don't know what I would do if I didn't have all this cat hair everywhere and I was constantly cleaning. Okay, so here's all our fabric, and I'm way too, I don't know why I bother, but I do this all the time. If you watch enough of my videos, you know that. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to need is the 16 1.5 inch A squares, and we are going to need 4 of the F squares, or the F rectangles. Those are the longer ones, because we're going to make more of the acorn caps, right? All right, so we're going to take those. That's what we're going to be using. Everything else I'm going to just sort of scooch over so that we can use it later. Okay, so we're going to be making 4 of these. So let me lay those out. Okay, and exactly the same way as we did with our dotty acorns, we are going to draw a diagonal line across the back of each of these, and then we are going to sew one to each corner, just like before. So you'll have, we'll sew this, I'm going to do the top ones first. So I'm going to sew these 2 on and all the way down. I'm going to come back, we're going to trim and press, and then we're going to sew all of the ones down on the bottom. And again, trim and press. So when we come back, I will have the acorn tops done, and we will move on to step 2. Okay, so I have finished the acorn tops up to this point, and now for these particular ones, we are going to take the rectangles that are 2.5 inches by 1.5 inches, and we're going to put one to either side of the acorn cap. And so we'll just take it, take each side, and we're going to flip it right sides together. And we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance here and here, and we'll complete that for all 4 of the acorn tops. Okay, so now we have our cap completely done, so we'll set those aside, and we are going to use the A and H 5.5 inch squares. It's the H, and here's the A. Okay, so we are going to put these right sides together, just like we did in the very first with the dotty acorn blocks. This is exactly the same as those. So what we're going to do is once you have them exactly right on one on top of the other, and they are right sides together, we are going to draw a diagonal line here and here, and then we'll also draw diagonal lines to either side of that, the ones down the middle. Now you are going to be stitching on those two outside lines, right? And then after we do all of that stitching, we're going to cut these diagonally this way, straight up the middle, and across. So as soon as I have all of my my lines drawn on here and then stitched, we'll come back and we'll do the cutting again together. Okay. Okay, so I've done my stitching, and now we are going to that'll go. I'm going to just do my trimming, or cutting all of these into different into little pieces. Okay, so I'm going to, or what I have done is I've put my 1/4 inch line on one of the outside lines that I stitched, and now I'm going to cut right down the middle. And then I will turn this and do the exact same thing on this other diagonal. Okay, and then now we need to go straight up the middle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the end of my ruler is just dissecting right here, right down the middle, and that will let me know. And then what I do is I'll take one of these 45-degree lines and I'll make sure that it's going down one of the lines that I have cut, and that way I know if I keep that straight, then my ruler is straight. And the very point of that 45-degree line will be right in the middle. So I'm ready to cut. And the last cut is right down the middle here. I'm gonna do the same thing. Okay, so now that we have 8 pieces, I am going to go over, and I'm going to, now normally, you know, if you know me, I like to press all my seams open, but in order to use the Bloc Loc, which will make it a lot quicker to cut these down to a 2-inch square, I'm going to press to one side or the other, and I'll probably just press to the brown side. since there's no, it doesn't really matter how you do it. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll come back and we will move on to step 3. Okay, so here are all of our half square triangles, and I'm going to cut them down to 2 inches square. I'll take the first one, and as you can see, I pressed toward the dark side. And so since I know I pressed toward this side, I'm going to take the Bloc Loc logo and I'm going to put it on the opposite side of the block. And then I will push the middle of the block. I see I got a hair on there. Right up against the seam, and as you can see, it will go straight up against it and it won't move. So now I'm going to just sort of push that way and pull down, and I'm going to leave the block a little bit bigger than the 2 inches because I want to also be able to trim off on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this side first, leaving some space bigger than the 2 inches. Let's go ahead and scooch that down if I can. Okay, and then I'm just going to pull it back down the way I pulled it from, and now I'm going to go to the 2-inch line here and the 2-inch line there. And once it is there, looks good, then I'm going to trim the other side. Okay, and there I have my 2-inch square. So now I'm just going to finish the others. Okay, so I have all of these little guys, and okay, it says here each pair of squares, hold on, draw lines corner to corner, stitch 1/4 inch either side of the drawn lines, cut into squares as shown. Yep, now cut the squares diagonally from corner to corner on drawn lines. Yep, carefully open half square triangle blocks and press seams. Each pair of squares will yield 8 half square triangle blocks. You will have a total of 16 half square triangle blocks when finished. Okay, I have 8, so I'm not really sure what she means. Anyway, I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'm going to go ahead and just move on to step 3, and let's just see what happens here. Okay, use half square triangle blocks from step 2, and the remaining E. Yeah. All right, so I think it's both of these. Okay. E, H. Where did I go? And I. Pieces. There's the I. I just dropped the F, but that's okay. Here we go. To create patchwork acorn body. Important, pay close attention to the alignment of the rectangles. Some are nearly squares, but must be laid out as shown. Okay, no worries. Here we go. I'm going to take the eyes, and we're making 4, so I'm going to take the eyes first because those are the 4 middles, and I know that they have to go like this. Scooch that up. Let me move these down a little. Okay. Then I'm going to want the bigger of the E's, because there are a smaller one and a bigger one. You'll see whenever you're looking at them. I think this one, the smaller one is 2.5 inch by 2 inch rectangles, and these are 3.5 inch by 2 inch rectangles. So you want to take the 3.5 inch by 2 inch rectangles, and you're going to put one to the top and bottom of each of those squares in the middle. All right, so I'm gonna have to move these a little bit. Okay, push those up. Actually, let me move this over. So I think I'm gonna need a little more room for these two. Okay, so let me just kind of scooch them a little further apart. Okay, so now I'm going to take the smaller of the E's and I'm gonna turn them in this direction. And you know that that's correct because it's going to match up with the side of this rectangle in the middle. And I'm going to put one to either side of each one. Okay. And next, let's take our little half square triangles that we just made here, and I'm going to put those in. So we're going to want the darker color toward the middle here, and you're just putting those on the bottom. And then we're going to take our I think these are 2 inch square. Yes, the 2 inch squares. And we're going to put one at the top right and left of each one. Okay, once we have these laid out, our next step is we're going to want to join all of the rows together first. So I'm going to go and I'm going to join this row, and this row, and I'm going to do the same for all 4. And the way that we're going to do that is just like we would do anything else, except here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's going to be quite easy if we just want to turn this right side, not actually, you probably can't even see that one. Hold on, let me do this one on the bottom so you can see. I'm gonna use this one right here. I would take these and put them right sides together on both sides because it's not gonna mess anything up. There's no reason not to. And once you have this done, then on each one, all you need to do is a 1/4 inch seam allowance here, 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 and here on all 4, and then we'll have all of our rows together. So let's do that and come back, and then we will stitch the rows together to make 4 little acorn bodies. Okay, so we have all of our rows put together, and now we want to sew the rows to make 4 acorns. So I'm going to turn these right sides together. And I was thinking about this, we can probably also go ahead and turn these right sides together, because your 1/4 inch is going to be lower than where this is. So you can go ahead and flip those as well, and then we can just sew them all at once. So once we have these 4 acorns done, we'll come back and we will start on, well, it looks like it's going to be part 2 of number 3. Okay, so we have our 4 acorns started, the acorn bodies, and now we're going to take these 8 5.5 inch by 2.5 inch rectangles, and we're going to sew one of these to either side of the acorn. So I'm going to show you on these 2. Okay, now we're going to do this with all 4 of them. We are going to attach one on either side. So we will just flip them right sides together. And we'll sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance here, 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 and here. Okay, so we have this part of the acorn body ready, and we're going to put that aside for just a moment. And we are going to take the smaller of our M fabrics. Let me just put this back on there. And we are going to take our F fabrics, and we're going to make 4 stems. Okay, so we are going to sew one of these to either side. Okay, and we're going to do it just like we did before, where we're going to sew these all together and make one big stem. And that's how we're going to do that. I'm going to start by sewing the middle square to the left. I'm turning them right sides together, and we're going to have a 1/4 inch seam allowance on this side. Okay, so here's our stem up top, and now we are ready to join all of these pieces to make our 4 patchwork acorn blocks. So we're just going to do it like we join any other rows, because these are all just rows that are the same size. We're going to sew this piece to that one, and then those 2 pieces can be sewed to here. I'll probably sew these 2 together first and then flip it up and sew them here. So when I come back, we will have 4 patchwork acorns, and then we'll also have the dotty acorns that we finished earlier. Okay guys, here are our acorn blocks. We have the dotty block, and then we have the patchwork block. I guess I should say the dotty acorn and the patchwork acorn. So anyway, we have all of our acorns and we are done. Thank you so much for sewing along with me, and I will see you guys next week with our new patterns, and I'm so excited. Thank you so much.